For more on the growth of China's brands and the shifting consumer preferences we're seeing there, we're joined by Bruno Lannes. He's with the consulting firm Bain & Company, and he's the head of consumer products, retail and luxury practice for Greater China. Bruno, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. Thank you.
Bruno, as we saw in your company's report, growth in China's fast-moving consumer goods market has slowed from nearly 12% in 2012 to around 4.4% in the first quarter of this year. That's year on year. What are the major factors behind this decline?
I think the major factors are, first of all, the slowdown of the economy, and this is translating into lower income per capita growth, which in turn translates into less spending, less discretionary spending on FMCG. So I think the slowdown of the economy is really the first driver. The second driver is related to the anti-graft and anti-corruption campaign, which has hit a lot of the gifting-oriented categories like spirits, like wine, like chocolate. And more generally, the quasi-elimination of gift cards has also contributed to the slowdown of this FMCG market. You know, gift cards were the way for a lot of companies in China to give income to employees in lieu of salaries, and of course these gift cards have been eliminated through this campaign. The third reason is around the classic evolution of middle class in China, upper middle class in particular, who are shifting a lot of their spending from daily necessities like FMCG towards more experiential categories like travel, like leisure, like tourism. And the last but not least reason is there has been a stop or a slowdown in the premiumization. Premiumization of categories has been a major driver of growth historically, and now this appetite of Chinese consumers to go for the more premium products are actually slowed down, mostly in home care categories as well as packaged food categories.
Well, what's interesting is that not only there's been a slowdown in the general category, but according to your report, in the four largest consumer goods sectors being home care, personal care, packaged food and beverages, foreign brands are losing market share. Domestic brands now account for about 70% of the market in those categories, and local brands are gaining share over foreign competitors for the third year in a row. Why is this the case? How have the domestic brands successfully been able to take away market share?
Yes, this is one of the striking news of our joint Bain-Kantar report. And as you said, this has been going on for the last 3 years. I think, first of all, we should point out that this is an aggregate view of market shares of the local companies versus the multinational companies. So it doesn't mean that any individual brand, multinational brand, is not gaining share and is not doing a good job. So this is an aggregate view, but still it's very telling. I think the major reasons are the following. Number one, historically the local brands have been more exposed to lower tier cities, and lower tier cities, as we mentioned in this Bain-Kantar report, lower tier cities have been growing around 8% last year versus 2% in tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So the mechanical effect of being more exposed to lower tier cities is helping local companies to grow faster. And you could say the same thing from a channel perspective, where local brands have been less exposed to large hypermarkets and modern trade, which again have been mostly hit by the slowdown this year and the previous years. So I think just by being less exposed to those two, to the tier 1 cities and to the modern trade cities, I think this has helped the local companies. But there are other reasons that we should mention as well. The other one is around the decision making and decision execution. I think in the fast changing market like the one we are facing now, it is important to be able to try new things, new products, and be able to either roll them out to the market or withdraw them if they are not successful. And fast decision making, fast reactivity, agility becomes key success factors. And I think local companies who are still run for the most part by first generation entrepreneurs or second generation entrepreneurs are actually much better off in this environment than the MNCs.
Well, Bruno, you said that this was on aggregate. Now, usually Chinese prefer the perceived better quality of foreign brands, but we're seeing domestic brands, according to your report, having the biggest gains in products like infant formula and skincare, whereas previously there were serious quality concerns about local products, particularly in those categories. How do you explain that shift?
I think the major reason behind this is that the local companies have improved significantly the product quality and also their ability to really meet the consumer needs. I think in cosmetics, for example, there are new trends towards, for example, mask, and this is something that the local companies have been the first to see. They are also able to innovate with products that are more in line with the Chinese heritage, maybe more in line with the Asian skins. By the way, among the MNCs that are still doing well in these categories, you see Korean brands as well for the same reason. So the Western companies seem to be suffering a lot more in cosmetics and beauty care in general as a result of that. I think infant formula is a combination of different things, for the most part driven by some MNCs facing quality issues and therefore being dropped by the Chinese consumers.
All right, so what should big multinational companies do to improve their market share in China?
I think today they need to continue to do what we recommend all of our clients to do, which is focus on penetration, focus on driving share by having as many consumers as possible, because consumers, as we have seen, are actually not loyal. So you need to recruit them when they go shopping, and that is really focusing on penetration as opposed to focusing on loyalty, for example. So we believe that this is a major factor. But also, as we mentioned in the report, we have identified a few opportunities, for example, lower tier cities, for example, smaller format modern trade, for example, e-commerce, for example, some categories that are still premiumizing. So all of these present opportunities for brands to go after. I think the third thing that I would recommend multinational brands to do would be around changing their operating model, and in particular trying to have a faster decision process and execution so that they can really test and try new innovations and make the most out of that speed and agility.
All right, Bruno, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time, but thank you so much. Bruno Lannes, head of the Consumer Products, Retail and Luxury Practices for Greater China's Bain & Company.